Hello, hello. Welcome live on Wednesday night, Wednesday, the 15th of July. Look, I had to check again. 2020. So we're in Victoria, in Australia. We've just been moved back to further restrictions. So dojo classes were open for 3 weeks and then wow. A lot of fun though for the couple of weeks that we had. We're back. We've been given 6 weeks. I think 5 remaining. So August 19th or 20th is the expected date when we'll hear about what's happening next with Victorian restrictions. But here we are. It's Wednesday night. This is the first of the meditation and energy work, breathwork videos of this second set. And you might notice, or you might have not noticed, that I titled this Wednesday night video Session 13 of the meditation and energy work videos. So obviously I'm just attaching it and running it on from the 12 weeks worth of videos that we did, that I did back in March, April, May, June of 2020. And because I'm going to just stick to the same content and it's just more practice of the same thing, then it will just be a matter of continuing that study. So I won't really be introducing much new content into these Wednesday night sessions. These are just designed to be some practice opportunity for us to follow on with some of the activities we were doing beforehand. So if you're new to this, I highly recommend going and watching the previous 12 hours. As if anyone's going to do that. Worth of videos. If not though, what I'll probably do is we've got time tonight, about an hour. So I'll spend some time for those who are new, who just joined the group, or who have just skipped the previous 12 and jumped straight to this one because you didn't know they existed or whatever. I'll go over them again, just quickly, the activities and the breathing. Don't be surprised if you don't keep up tonight. That's all good. There's no requirement. You know, you're at home in the comfort of your wherever. So you just plod along at your own pace and it's all good. Doesn't matter. It takes 100 years. It's all good. We'll just give a few more minutes to let everyone join us tonight who'd like to jump on the page. And it's pretty cold. I'm looking forward to getting into some breath work so I can warm up. I could have sat down and done that before I started the video, but you know, I was doing other really important pressing things like throwing shuriken. All right, so for those who have just joined us or have completely forgotten the content of the previous 12 weeks worth of meditation videos, or you've just joined the dojo as a trial student in the 3 weeks that we had back, and now you're on board watching these on Wednesday nights as part of the online package in this 5-6 week chunk. For your benefit, I'm going to very quickly just go back and detail what we've done, and we'll go through some little activities and work up before we just get into the bulk of practice tonight. So these are activities about meditation. They're not visualization activities. They're meditation activities. Sense observation meditation specifically. And we use these in Hoshinden as a way of really refining the 5 senses and the skills of the 5 senses, the tangible senses. And then beyond that, they become useful as a way of actually using breath to mediate emotional change and to remind us, and this is really quite crucial, remember, that the point of meditation is not everlasting perfection. It's not everlasting doneness, you know. If you want that will happen when you're dead. So it's like being alive is this journey of up and down and night and day. And so it's not that meditation has anything to do with this sense of like immortal perfection. It's the constant reaching for answers to questions. And the questions don't have to be even academic in their nature. And what I mean by that is that the questions could be a yearning, or the question could be it could be a sense of something that you don't have words for, but there's a feeling within you, maybe in relationship to a particular topic or a dynamic or a certain experience. And every time you see blue, you go, I don't know. Whatever it is, a yearning is probably a good, just a general term for that. They could be posed as questions in terms of, what is that? What happens if we look at that? What happens if every time the colour blue comes up and you go, well, what if you just were to observe that and then you enter into the fields of meditation? What if you were to just look at that and then observe what it is that happens? What happens to your sense over time? What happens to the thing? The first part of that question might be, what happens to my feeling if I just look at something blue, which usually scares me. I'm just going to meditate upon blue for the next 10 years. And then eventually the question might change to, what do I mean by blue? What is blue? And then it'll further divide into these sub-questions. And in the process, a whole bunch of answers for us will come through that process, that practice. So Mahayana Buddhism presents this, and a lot of other forms of Buddhism, but presents this as an activity called vipassana. So it sounds like the posture of vips to observe. Maybe your observation is not quite the right term, but you wouldn't say the observing posture, but the action of to see. Yeah. So we have this I've talked about this before. When you follow the progression of that type of meditation, and you follow over thousands of years, and you end up in Japan, and Mahayana Buddhism's transformed through its journey into something in Japan called Nikkyo, a form of Buddhism, and you get this practice of meditation called Zen, and Zen is a Japanese term. It's a Japanese pronunciation of a Chinese term called Chen, and Chen is a slang for the Chinese term Chanya, and Chanya is the Chinese word or the Chinese translation of an Indian word, dhyana, and dhyana is the meditative state. And then you have to ask the question, it's all about refining terms, what do we mean by meditative state? We have to define the words meditative and state. Yeah. So state is easy, because we can refer to a presence of experience at a point in time. Meditative, is a little bit more haphazard, because that has so many, we have so many different ideas, especially in New Age world, the Western world post-1960. We have all these very, very unique, very different ideas of what meditation is, what it does, gurus left, right, and centre. And so all I can do is to define it more specifically to what I mean. It is not visualization. It is the observation, the recalibration of my experience and that which is happening around me on this plane, in this realm of experience, of tangible reality. So I start by listening to what I can hear. What can you hear? Just in general. And it might become a mash, big mishmash of different sounds, audible sensations. I'm going to ask a more clarifying question. What can you hear outside? Wherever you are, what can you hear outside the house, outside the building, outside the cars, on the road, on the street? What can you hear? As you breathe it through your nose, down into your belly. And out through your mouth. In through the nose, down into the belly. And out through the mouth. And now what can you hear close? What can you hear within the room or the building or within a few meters of your body? Does your breath become quite audible? The sound of your clothing as you breathe and shuffle? Keep it close. What can you hear close? And now, taking your attention to the sounds that you can hear right at your eardrum. If you're thinking about your eardrum, what can you hear right at your eardrum? Can you hear the eardrum itself? Listen to the eardrum. As you breathe in through your nose, down into your belly. And out through the mouth. Listening to your eardrum. And then just resting and relaxing your focus attention. So if you've been following with us over the whole work in the first start of the year, the 12 videos previously, none of this will be new. It'll be right in par with what we're doing. If you're new to this, just tag along with us for the journey of this video. I recommend going back and looking at the first, say, 4 or 5 videos in the series of the meditation videos. They will give you really basic activities to work through. This one, I'm kind of mashing together introduction with a little bit more advanced technique. And so we'll do these 3 actions and study over the 5 senses. So the next one we're going to move to is the sense of smell. Didn't realise how squishy my nose was. Breathing in and out as you breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. We're going to keep the tongue on the roof of the mouth, behind the top 2 front teeth. As you breathe in and out, you breathe out around the tongue. And I never explain that to you in these videos. I chit-chat about that as part of the philosophy talks on the Friday night. So now we're going to observe, what can we smell in the olfactory sense? What can you smell in the space around you? The room, the building, maybe the smell of dinner cooked recently. Breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. Perhaps the smell, the floral smell, fragrance of a cup of tea on the bench. Just soft, subtle smells. What can you find? I guarantee there will be some kind of smell, some kind of scent. As you keep breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. What can you smell in the room around you? even if it's subtle. It's very faint, but I can smell the smell of the timber. There's some fresh timber that I installed in the wall here at the dojo a couple of weeks ago, maybe. And it's very subtle, but I can just pick up a scent of that timber. As we now move on from smelling what we can smell in the room, in the surrounding area, what can you smell very close to you? Can you smell your own clothing? Hopefully it's not too bad. If you're wearing wool, can you smell the lanolin in the wool? Can you smell if you have, maybe you've had perfume or essential oils or aftershave or something on, and you can smell that? Or perhaps, I mean, obviously not now, but you've been on a lovely date and you've got the smell of the person that you were sitting with at dinner. As you close your eyes and just smell, what can you smell really close to you, within half a metre of your body? Breathing in through the nose, down into the belly. What can you smell very close? And now taking your attention to the smells of the inside of the nose. Can you smell the sense of smell itself? The smell receptors. What can you smell all along the inside of the nose, of the nostrils? As you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, notice how it changes from smells and scents to textures. Perhaps you become very aware of the temperature difference in the air and when you breathe in. But that's not a smell, that's a textural change, yeah? What can you smell on the inside of your nose? As you breathe in and out, in through the nose, out through the mouth, tongue sits on the roof of the mouth, as we talked about before, behind the top two front teeth. Unless you're so old you don't have any, in which case you just have to guess. Final breath, in through the nose, out through the mouth. So notice that it might be difficult, and you might find this at home. It's often difficult to differentiate the textural experience, meaning the ability to detect temperature differential. You breathe in looking at the nose, and all of your senses are heightened on the nose. You're listening to the hearing at the nose, and you're maybe not looking at your nose, but you're hyper vigilant. All of your tactile senses at the nose as well. And you suddenly become aware of a lot more than smell. You become aware of so the air is quite cold in the dojo tonight. I haven't got the heater on, it's just me. As I breathe in, it's cold. That distracts me from my actual goal in that part of the activity, which is what can I smell? So pose that as a question. Meditation is nothing but questions. Meditation's a method, I should be more specific. Meditation is a method of answering the questions that you pose to yourself. That's about it. It leads to incredible places, but the method is no more complicated than that. Pose questions, explore answers. So we're going to move on now to the oppositional sense to smell, the sense of taste. And you'll notice that one is acute on the inward breath and one is acute on the outward breath at the beginning levels. Another question would be, is it possible to smell on the outward breath? Is it possible to taste on the inward breath? I'll just pose them and leave them there as requirements for you. But as you're breathing in, we're now going to focus. Like I said, this is mishmash between beginners and intermediate level. We're going to be focusing on taste, the taste sensation. So as you breathe in and out, in through the nose, down into the belly, out through the mouth, what can you taste? In the tastes in the room around you, in the air, maybe in fragrance. If it helps, you can hold your breath momentarily as you breathe in. So you can breathe in and just hold, and then slowly breathe out as you explore the taste sensation. And I can't see you, but I can just imagine all of you at home going. It's always fun watching the class when you're all here with your eyes closed, deep in these meditations. Taste it. So breathing in and out. What can you taste? What's in the air? And now drawing your attention closer. What can you taste in the mouth itself? Maybe that changes it, doesn't it? Really spikes up certain sensations, gets rid of others. They lens a focus in and out. So now as you're breathing in and out, tasting what's inside the mouth. Now these might be flavours from the dinner or the meal you just had, the cup of tea that you've just drunk. Even the glass of water you had, it'll have a distinct type of flavour. As you take 2 more breaths, breathing in and out. Okay, now we're going to move on to the third part of that sensation. I want you to taste the tongue itself. Find out what the taste of the taste buds is. So as you breathe in, tasting the tongue, tasting the back and the taste buds of the tongue. Hopefully you've gone all quiet and a bit worried at home, trying to work out how do you do that? Just like listening to the sound of your eardrums. How do you taste the tongue? How do you taste the taste buds? It's a good question. Use the meditation method to observe that. Remember to breathe in and out. Can you taste the tongue? Or does it become textural? And now just softly relaxing the focus on the taste sensation. Now we're going to move, let me set myself up. We're going to move to the sensation of sight, so the visual sensation. You can have your eyes open or closed, doesn't bother me. If they're open, then you're just going to be observing far away into the distance. So I'm just staring at the wall that's behind the iPad here. You might have a wall or a vacant cobweb in the corner of a room or out a window and just the blankness. So we're just staring, and our interest isn't in what we can see. It's not in the detail of what we can see. It's just in our interest of what there is to be seen in the vision, in the sight. So as I'm staring out at the wall, all of my peripheral vision comes into play. And there's words written on the wall in chalk, but they blur. I'm not looking at the letters and interpreting them as words. They're just letters, and eventually the letters match, they blur into just shapes and geometry of colour. They lose even being called letters at a certain point. And then they just turn into contrasting experiences between the black of the painted wall and the colour of the chalk. So this is what we're interested in. What happens in what you can see when you just look? So looking out there, first of all, as you breathe in and out, in through the nose, down to the belly, out through the mouth. Off we go. And you can blink. Don't think you have to glue your eyes open. Just blink softly when needed. There's really interesting effects where, for whatever reason, the angle of the room suddenly shifted. So interesting. Who'd have thought? In through the nose and out through the mouth. Yeah, these really super interesting. I always find the site super interesting. You know, there's a whole mash of words. They all start shifting up and down in this blur. Amazing. And all I've had today is dinner, some water. Okay, now we're going to change our focus. We're going to draw the focus back from far away to quite close. So if you've got something within, say, 10 centimetres of your vision, you can focus on that. If not, then you can hold your hand up. Oh, and I just realised that I forgot to tell the people who had their eyes closed what to do. Oh well, too bad. So, again, eyes open or closed. If your eyes are closed, and you're doing this one, when you were looking long, you were peering through the eyelids, so into just the vague, beyond the geometries even and the shapes, just into the vague darkness of the eyes shut. When for this next section of the vision sensation, you're going to peer at the back of the eyelids, so at the shapes, at the colours and the projections on the phosphors at the back of the eyelid. If your eyes are open, then you're either looking at something very close to you, a piece of hair in front of your eye. Don't look at your nose, that'll get really painful on the eyes after a while. You can hold your hand very close, and you want to get something to the point where it just goes out of focus for you. And we'll just hold that, only for a couple of breaths. And we're going to see, what can you see? What happens to the vision? What happens to the object? What happens to the surrounding peripheral vision? What happens to your interpretation of what this object is? Okay, so off we go. Bring it into a position where it's just out of focus, just blurry. And as we breathe in and out, what happens to your vision? What happens to sight? What can you see? We'll just do 2 more breaths for this one. And relaxing the hand or relaxing whatever it is you're focusing on. Whew. Feel it all in here. Now the next level with the sight is we're going to observe the tissue of the eye itself. So in the same vein as we were listening to the sound of the eardrum, listening to the eardrum itself, and we were smelling the smell receptors, we were tasting the taste buds, and now we're looking at the eye. So we're looking at the tissue of the eye. Can you see the eye? What can you see? I don't even know the words to pitch for it. What can you see at the eye? Off we go. Eyes open or closed, doesn't matter for this, breathing in and out. And you'll find yourself caught between interpreting sensations and then being like, oh wait, no, that's on the wall. The question is, what can I see at my eye? And it's a disarming kind of activity, this. just gives pause to whatever it is you think you're meant to be doing. As you breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth, or in through the nose, down into the belly, then out through the mouth. Looking at the eye. And just relaxing the vision. Super interesting. All right, we're going to move to the last of the 5 senses, but just check them. We've done, because I skipped one a few videos ago, didn't I? We've audible, olfactory, taste, visual. So now we're going to be observing the tactile sense. So the sense of physical sensation. And we're going to use the body. Don't know what else you thought we were going to use. What I meant specifically was we're going to be using wherever the body meets the ground, that's where I want you to start your focus, especially if you're new to this. It's going to be so much easier than observing tactile sensation on the back of your right elbow. So if you've been doing this for a while, you're welcome to pick whatever area you want. If you want to follow along with the group, then I want you to just find out quickly in your mind, observe where your body is meeting the ground most. So for example, I'm sitting in Seiza. And so the front of my legs, front of my shins and my ankles, they are in contact with the ground. And I can feel pressure, the sensation of pressure. My body weight meets the ground. If you were sitting in a chair, then maybe the areas of sensation are your feet, your heels, the balls of your feet, the arches, and your buttock and the back of the thighs. Maybe. If you're lying down, it's a whole bunch of different things. If you're lying on your face, I don't know why you're lying on your face. If you're lying on your face, well, then it's your face. Wherever it is that you can observe the pressure sensation, let's start there. And I want you just to observe the sensation of pressure wherever it is your body meets the ground. Off we go. Breathing in through the nose, down into the belly, out through the mouth. Oh, pardon me. I think I've been resisting that yawn all video. Breathing in and out, observing the sensation where the body weight meets the ground. Okay, now we're going to take your attention still to where the body meets the ground, but rather than just the sensation of pressure, I want you to observe the actual tissue itself. So the exact tissue where an aspect of your body meets the ground. You're going to have to hone in and decide on one. So for example, myself in Seiza, I'm going to look at the tissue on my left shin. The middle part of my left shin. So it's probably like a section about 1 or 2 centimeters by 3 or 4 centimeters, little rectangle. That's where I'm going to be observing. And my interest is if I can actually feel the nerve sensations of the tissue, not the texture of pressure. So off we go, breathing in and out. Wherever it is that you have chosen to observe tissue, you take your mind there. We breathe in. What can you feel? The actual tissue itself. As you breathe in through your nose, down into your belly, through your mouth. One more breath, in and out. And now we're going to take our attention. Can you feel the ground? Can you feel the sensations of the ground? Can you feel the actual sense of the ground pushing against you at the areas of the body that meet the ground? Just as we're interested in listening to the sound at the eardrums, or listening to the eardrums, tasting the tongue and the taste buds, seeing and looking at the eye. Can you feel the ground? It's a really good question. As we take a few moments, we breathe in and out, in through the nose, down into the belly. And breathing out, can you feel the ground is the question. Off we go. One more breath. And just softly relaxing your focus on the tactile sensation. So how did you go? Could you feel the ground? Is that possible? Is that something that anyone has ever done in the history of anyone? Now, before we move on to another activity, just quickly recap what we've done. We've walked through the 5 sense organs, 5 sensations, and we've observed different levels of focus with those. So a focus that's got quite large, broad perspective, quite far away. And then things that are very close, and they shift. Have you noticed? The experience is, for example, the sounds of the cars driving outside were louder than the sound of your own breathing when you were interested in the cars driving outside your house. When I asked you to listen to what you could hear very close to your body, suddenly the sound of your breathing sounds like it could be, a lawnmower. It's super loud. And it was the same decibel volume as before, but the interest wasn't within that realm. And then when you take your attention to what can you hear the eardrum, suddenly all sound takes on a numbness. All sound takes on a differentiated experience. So there really is a difference then between the sounds going on and the experience or the question of your eardrum. So you find that it does these mental gymnastics as we grapple with things that we just take for granted, like when you look and you just see the words on the wall, because they're written on the black wall and they're made out of letters, and letters are just coloured shapes colored geometric forms, using chalk. So really, if I consider what that wall is, what those words are, they're beyond abstract, just on a fundamental level. It's just gypsum. It's actually just concrete. So it's like a whole bunch of minerals pressed together, dried out with some plastic because it's painted. And then there's gypsum on it. It doesn't sound like words. That's the reality of what that actually is. When I give meaning to the chalk, suddenly I turn it into patterns of recognition, and the chalk takes on a whole new realm of meaning to me. But it hasn't changed, It's still just gypsum, scribbled, rubbed. I might as well have just smeared some chalk on the wall, and then have decided that's the letter L, or whatever. And then I put all these smearings together, these little geometric shapes, and I group them, and suddenly in a pattern I see words that I've trained myself to recognize. I can see words out of these lines, and like any alphabet. And that's another layer of abstraction. It's another abstracted layer of meaning that I'm applying to this. It's just chalk. It's just coloured bits of gypsum. What is it that gives any difference between that and some of the chalk on the wall that isn't a letter? It's actually exactly the same thing. It's only that I've interpreted it differently. It hasn't changed. And so the meditations on just sight can help us get an understanding of that, remind us, reorient us in the sense of some sense of reality of what is going on the wall and what is going on in my own mind. And obviously, we can take that to an infinite level of abstraction. So the practice of this is incredibly helpful for reorienting oneself into the surrounding experience, so that you find that you listen to the sounds you can hear, and immediately your mind can create a kind of a 3D map of where you are and what's going on. And you could argue that the senses do that. They feed information constantly into central processing, understanding areas of logic and contrast that produce maps of location, so that you are you're kind of like echolocated, like a sonar. You're kind of building images, and you might be surprised to find that when you build these images, a sense of anxiety goes down. Or you just feel more kind of calmly at peace. You feel quite relaxed in the center of your enormous map, like almost like you have a handle on what's going on. So if there's a scenario, it's really just a metaphor, isn't it? If there's a scenario going on where you're feeling immense anxiety, wonder what would happen if you were to, in your meditation practice, create a map of that experience, even if it's something non-tangible, if it's something like a dynamic change or an issue of dynamic with a particular human being or whatever. You can create a map in terms of you and the relationship of how things play out, and timelines and these options. And you might find that in the creation of that map, you locate yourself somewhere in the story. And then this sense of kind of calmness and clarity comes together. Now, the next activity that we're going to do tonight, we've got a few minutes to do it. We'll brush through this quite quickly, and then we'll do more of this next week. It's going to be a breath, so it's a bit of breath work, some breathing exercises. We're going to use the hand. Now, if you've been watching the videos previously, or you've been in my classes, you'll know this. If you're new to this, or you recently joined the dojo, I'll go through this very briefly for you. So what we're going to be interested in, you can have your eyes open or closed, is observing physical sensation in the tissue, both sensation and the textural experience. So it could be textures such as nervous system responses, throbbing, pulsing, prickly, tingles, things like that, as well as very visceral sensations, such as the very subtle sense of the draft in the room as the air passes over the skin, and how you experience that in temperature change, things like that. But it's not necessarily like a repeating pattern of internal wave or pulsing. So I'm going to start off differently. So I'm going to start off with the very center of my palm here. And if you are new to this, I want you to get your other finger and your fingernail and just mark in the middle of your palm so that you can feel physical sensation. You're like, ow. Don't do it so much that it hurts. It's not stigmata. But you want to be able to feel that. And now begin there in your breathing and just observe the remnants of that nervous system sensation where you made the mark. If you lost it, scratch the little thing again. And just watch that until as they fade out and slowly start to explore. Now that you've used your mind to locate where it is you're meant to have your mind, slowly explore the sensations on the palm. Take a couple of breaths to do this, breathing in and out. You can have your eyes open or closed. I'm just closing mine for now because I want to. Breathing in and out. Now I want you to take your attention immediately to the back of the hand. So the opposite. Drill a little hole through your hand mentally and take your mind and your attention to the sensations at the back of the hand. That looks really weird when I have my hand like that. So the back of the hand. Now I want you to take your attention, you can have your eyes open for this, up into the fingertips of each finger. Doesn't matter in what order. I just want you to look, you can have your eyes open, you can look, you can breathe, until you start to feel some sense of sensation in the fingertips itself. And then when you do, in a particular finger, and it's quite constant, move on to a different finger. And just keep hopping around the hand, the fingers in this way. And don't be too concerned if there's one finger that's really stubborn. You're like, wow, that takes ages. The other one sort of came online quite quickly. Okay, I'm going to assume that you've done that. Now, we're going to take our mind back to this dot in the middle of the hand. And we're going to, in our brain, in our mind, in our thinking, we're going to make little maps. We're going to draw lines along the hole, along that point, out to the fingertip of each of the fingers on the left hand, on the palm. So you start off in a little dot in the center. If you can still remember a little moment of what that feels like. If not, you can just put your fingernail in and turn so you get a sensation again, and that gives you like a beacon, somewhere to start. And then walk out through the hand to the pinky finger, or for whatever finger you want to start with. And then when you get there, wait and just pause and keep watching until you can feel the sensation of that nervous system response. And now move on to a different finger. Starting from the middle of the palm and then walking out. And then continuing, another finger. And another finger. And the last one. And now I want you to think about each of the fingertips again. And just observe them quickly and just note whether you can feel some sense of nervous system response, some kind of tactile sensation. Buzzing, throbbing, pulsing, some kind of texture. Could even just be numbness. But if you can localize the experience of numbness to a particular area, well then it's clearly not numbness. It's just a very impenetrable block of sensation that obviously has edges, or else you wouldn't be able to define where it is. Now that you've walked through each of the fingertips, I want you to immediately switch and just take your attention to the fingertips on the opposite hand. So I'm now thinking of the fingertips with my right hand. I'm about halfway through. Just observing the fingertips until some kind of sensation becomes apparent. And now I want you to think about your feet. Take your attention down to your feet. What can you feel? Any parts of your feet, the toes, the heels, the arches, the soles of the feet, the balls of the feet, the tops of the feet, the ridges, the toenail. I just want you to keep your attention on the feet for a moment as you breathe in and out. Okay, so that sensation in the feet, that buzzing experience of feedback in the tissue in the feet, I want you to make that a bit of a bookmark in your mind. Bookmark the ability to observe sensation and experience in the feet. Okay. And then just let that go. You can just soften your view, relax everything, just kind of remember that you're in a room, in a building, maybe on a planet flying through space, probably. And then just now that you've got that little bookmark about your feet, you just think of a few things that might happen throughout your day or your week where you get very distracted into the activity, like super distracted. So the activity just takes over all of your focus and you completely forget what time it is or anything else that you could be focusing on. It's like all consuming. And maybe it's just little things. Maybe there's like a particular movie that you enjoy watching or a television show or like your Wednesday night meditation videos. Maybe there's a whole bunch of experiences that I'm not going to go into, but maybe it's like it could even be a work experience. Maybe it's like, oh yeah, that often happens, at work. You sit down, it's 8 a.m. and you blink and it's 5 p.m. Like, whoa. Whatever it is, you're part of the practice of meditation, which is just returning constantly this practice of the meditative state. It's not maintaining the meditative state, it's the returning to. So if you're up for the challenge, when you're in the middle of one of these experiences, whatever it is that's all-consuming of your attention, see if you can now plant a little alarm in your mind to go off to say, think about my feet, think about my feet. And so you might be in the middle of work, and it's 8 o'clock, it's 8 a.m, and you start work, suddenly you blink, it's 1 o'clock, and you're about to go have lunch, and you're like, oh wait, that's right, I just have to think about my feet. And just take like 5 seconds, 10 seconds, think about your feet. I mean, if you can maintain thinking about your feet for the entire activity, it's amazing. We might not get any work done, but like, holy crumbs, your feet would feel like they're made of 100-kilo lava jelly and 400 meters high. So it's just this little suggestion to explore how that feels. In martial arts, one of the things that martial artists become very good at is being able to use breath work to mediate and manage the movement of emotional experience and kind of just riding and surfing this wave of like tactile tension, so that there is delay between when someone comes up and starts yelling at you or something dangerous starts happening. There's delay between that and you experiencing that emotionally and then you responding physically. Good delay. Not necessarily delay in your ability to put yourself in a better scenario, but delay so that people giving you their opinion of you doesn't immediately lead to like consumed tension and hate and rage, Or if it does, you can breathe and then remember that you have feet, and you'll find that the sensation of tension melts away as you focus on different activity. And so part of that process, that practice, is building this ability to decide where your energy of attention goes. And then there's a whole world of amazing experiences that the human being can have with that activity. Once you get a handle on that, and this is a way of starting that. To be distracted in something and then think about your feet. Or be, in the middle of a busy conversation and then suddenly listen. Imagine if you're in the middle of a conversation and you actually suddenly just listen to what the other person was saying. Be mind-blowing. Just then I can suddenly hear the cars that are outside on the street. So I'll leave it there. Bang on 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or whatever the time is. I don't even know anymore. I hope you have had a good session. This was like a mishmash of some, mostly beginner, but some intermediate practice bashed back together there for the benefit of those who've forgotten from the previous 12 sessions or who've just joined us now. Next week, we're going to pick up the pace again a little bit more and get into some sense observation breath work. And I want to quickly find our way back to the breath, the observation of the breath, the heartbeat, and then into the organs itself, because that's fun. So this is all stuff, this is a form of Qigong, this is called bone breathing, marrow washing, and we will get into it later. Have a good night. Thanks for joining me, guys. Bye.